Hello and welcome to Growing in Uncertainty. I don't know why that was so hard to say. Welcome to Growing in Uncertainty. My name is Tess Miller. I am the owner of Wings Unfolded, my seminar and coaching business, and also I'm a music practitioner and sound healer as well. And as a self proclaimed expert on being stuck, I have decided to make these videos to share with you all what I've learned about being stuck, about all the opportunities that there are in being stuck, but also in the process of getting unstuck. And so, in this way, we are growing in uncertainty together. So, after I thought about what I wanted to talk about today, I was thinking about the fact that, it's winter time, and winter time has historically been a challenging time for me. I do experience seasonal affective disorder. I get a little down in the dumps and crabby, as my family can attest. But anyway, things have gotten better for me over the years, and the reason for this was because of something that happened about 9 years ago. 9 years ago, we had one of the worst snow ice storms that we had ever had. It took out the power, and definitely you couldn't. Hi, Shakanda. You definitely couldn't drive anywhere, and it was just really a scary situation. And then after that, throughout 2014. It never got any better. The weather just stayed really snowy every single day. I would have to drive to one of my jobs. It was always snowing, and I was always white knuckling it. And so, I really, my anxiety about winter really started to ramp up. And so I started getting not only anxious, but also really angry. Every single time I'd put my clothes on or my coat or have to put my mittens on, I'd be all in a huff and angry that I would have to be doing this. But then finally spring arrived, and I remember just feeling like it was such a huge relief that I had made it through winter, and that I didn't have to worry about the roads quite so much anymore. So anyway, as time went on and the winter of 2015 approached, I noticed myself experiencing a lot of anxiety about what is this winter going to be like? What if I don't make it? How am I going to handle this winter? And my energy was already being drained before the winter had even started. So I decided at that point that I really needed to change something about what I was doing and how I was perceiving wintertime. But the problem was, in order to change that, it wasn't like I could move someplace else. I couldn't really control the weather at all, and I couldn't change my job situation at that short notice. I couldn't. And so what was left was changing me. I had to change my perspective on winter. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, was my process of how I went about changing my perspective on winter, and how that process really opened my eyes to changing perspectives on a lot of things in our lives that we might be feeling angry about, or upset about, or have a lot of hatred towards. Because when you can change that perspective, then you can actually start to take control of what you can control and start enjoying your life again. So, so changing a perspective isn't just about saying, I'm just going to think the opposite of what I've been thinking. Instead of hating winter, I'm just going to say that I love winter. It doesn't work that way. So the first thing I noticed that I had to do as I was in the process of befriending winter was that I had to change how I had to work on my self-awareness and the awareness of how winter was really affecting me. And the way I did that was I journaled. If you've been watching me, you know that I'm a big journaler. I love to write down what I'm experiencing, my thoughts, my emotions. It's a great way for me to keep track of how I'm doing on my journey. So in my journal, I acknowledged and validated what I was feeling about winter. That was really step one. Yep, I'm feeling anxious. Yep, I'm feeling really angry. Yep, I really don't enjoy being cold all the time. But I also was able to go a little bit deeper with what I was experiencing. I feel like I'm out of control. I feel like, no matter how hard I try to get to work, I can't make it on time, whatever it is. I could at least talk about those things in my journal. But I also did something with Facebook, and I know Facebook, love it or leave it. The thing with Facebook is that it allowed me to go public with what I was doing with my relationship with winter. And if you scroll back, if you care to scroll back to my posts from winter of 2015, you can see that I was posting a lot of pictures that helped me feel more joyful about winter. I was posting lessons that I was learning about winter time. And so if you want to, you can go back and view those posts. So making my issues with winter public on Facebook made it so that I added a layer of accountability for myself, because when I would say that I was working on these things or I was learning these things, I knew that people who paid attention to my posts were going to be asking me, hey, how are you doing with this? Or, what are you doing to incorporate this new lesson into your life? And that really helped me decide, okay, if I really am going to put this out there, it's got to be real for me. I can't just say that I'm learning these lessons or I'm making peace with this. I can't just pay lip service to it. I actually have to live it. So I liked the idea that Facebook in this case helped me take ownership and responsibility for what I was actually putting out there into the world. I also, another way that I was developing self-awareness was that I talked to a lot of friends and I asked them, how do you get through the winter? What are your thoughts about the winter? Hearing their perspective and kind of comparing it to how I saw winter helped me be able to start shifting. Oh, this person says that they like the cold. How can they like the cold? And then we could have a conversation about it, and I could hear their perspective on the cold and bundling up and what that felt like to them, and I could consider that from my point of view and see if I could incorporate or adopt that new perspective into my life. So talking with a lot of different people helped. My husband, of course, was the first to show me as many creepy spider videos as possible to basically convince me that this is why we continue to live in a place where our face hurts in the winter. So I definitely have appreciated that. So anyway, the second thing that I did to really change my perspective on winter was that I took control of the things that I actually could control. Like I said, I couldn't move, I couldn't change my jobs, I couldn't control the weather, but I could control the equipment that I was using. I realized that my winter coat back then really was not great. It was like, a wool coat that didn't come down very far. And so I realized that I really needed to up my coat game. I got myself a longer coat. I also upped my boot game, got myself some nice colorful boots, and definitely invested in, finding the perfect mittens and scarves and hats. And I know that seems like a really silly thing, but it for my perspective, it really shifted things, because I realized that there really wasn't too cold of a temperature where I live, as long as you have the right equipment, as long as you have warm enough clothing, as long as you're layering up. And that really helped me deal with the cold and the inclement weather. It helped me feel like, all right, I can do this as long as I have these things on, and my comfort level went way up when I actually started thinking about what I was wearing. I also started collecting some lovely sweaters, and actually, I'm to the point in my wardrobe where I actually prefer my winter clothing to my spring summer clothing. So that gives me something to look forward to. And I also have been a huge believer in yak tracks. If you live in a northern climate in the United States, you should probably get yourself some yak tracks. That makes it so that I don't have to fall or worry about slipping. So just putting that out there. Something else I did that was really simple was that I gave myself permission to not drive if the roads are bad. And that meant that I was going to have to cancel, lessons if I were teaching lessons. Now I just move them online, which is really lovely. But before, I would have a lot of stress thinking about, how am I going to make it to my job? Well, you know, it's one day that maybe 2 days that the weather's going to be really bad. In fact, we're supposed to get a snowstorm tonight and tomorrow, and I've already canceled my in-person lessons for tomorrow, knowing that it's not just me that doesn't want to drive in it, it's also other people who don't really want to drive in it either. So might as well keep it safe. And that keeps my stress down. And then I'm not dealing with the anxiety and the anger that I was feeling before. And the most important thing that I took control of was my thoughts. This is where I had to do a lot of work on myself. That's where the self-awareness really came in handy. My thoughts were along the lines of, I hate winter, it's too cold, I'm going to get into an accident, this winter is never going to end. But when I would be in those thoughts, I realized that's not really helping me. That's actually just me resisting what is. And as I know, I've shared, one of my favorite phrases with you all is, whatever we resist persists. And so I was just amplifying all of my emotions by staying in those thoughts. So whenever I would notice myself saying out loud or thinking one of those negative thoughts, I would first validate it. Yes, yep, you're right. That's a valid thought. That's a valid feeling. But what can I control about that? And oftentimes it would be, well, I can't control this, so I'm going to instead make myself a cup of tea, or I'm going to put some warm socks on. I would find something else that I could control, and that would usually comfort me. The third thing that I did to actively change my perspective on winter was that I found something fun about it. I would try to create fun activities for myself. One of them was that I learned how to make those 3D snowflakes. And now it has become a tradition for me to make 3D snowflakes and put them up above our dining room table. And as inevitably the snowflakes fall off the ceiling because the tape just doesn't stay, I take it as a symbolic act, and I take the snowflake that has fallen and I throw it away. And that for me is a reminder that we are one step closer to spring. With every day that goes by, with every snowflake that falls from above our dining room table. And it just feels really good. I look forward to the days when I get up in the morning and there's another snowflake that has fallen. Something else that I started doing was planting bulbs in pots around the house. This gave me, just something beautiful to look at and something to watch, something to grow and to watch it growing. And we also would rearrange our furniture just to change the way that the rooms looked and felt. And that helped make our home feel more fresh. And I found new tea and coffees that I could drink, and that would give me something warm to look forward to. It became kind of a ritual for me to make my teas and coffees. Why am I talking in the past tense? I still do these things. Definitely drink lots of tea and coffee over the course of winter. So anyway, just, trying to keep the house as comfy, cozy as possible, but also finding fun and joy in that process. Finally, the fourth thing that I did in order to change my perspective on winter was to look for the meaning and the purpose in winter for me personally. What are the gifts that winter has to offer us? I've always connected to finding meaning and purpose in things. When I know the reason behind something, it helps me settle into what is rather than what I want it to be. In other words, it helps me find acceptance when I know the reason or purpose behind something. So I decided that winter, for me, the purpose of winter is to remind us that going inward is a really important act of self-love and inner growth. The earth has to go inward every year for winter. Everything dies. The earth doesn't die. It's just that growth happens more inward. We on the surface of the earth don't get to see that, but I know that there's still life, there's still growth that's happening under the surface of the earth. And so for humans too, we need those times in our life when maybe we need to take a break from things and go inward and focus on the growth that happens on the inside of us rather than constantly trying to make that growth happen externally. When we only focus on what we're creating outside of us, we forget to check in with how we're doing. How does this external manifestation of what I want really align with who I am, with what I value, with what I want long term for my life? So winter for me is now a reminder to go inward and reflect and get to know myself. Each year come back to that internal sense of who I am. One of my favorite quotes that I found recently is a Robert Louis Stevenson quote that goes, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant." And that is just such a healthy reminder for me that I can't judge myself based on what I'm doing every single day, what I'm accomplishing every day, but by the ideas that I'm putting out there, that I'm, seeding things constantly all the time in my life. And then it's just a matter of waiting for those things to grow when the conditions are right. So I now use every single sight of winter that I used to hate, like the snow and the ice, the bulky clothing, the need to stay inside. I use all of those things as a symbol and a reminder for me to go inward and tend to my own growth from the inside out. So, what's something that you hate right now? How does hating that thing affect your life? How helpful is it when you focus on how much you hate that thing, or how harmful is it? What would you be doing if you weren't focusing on the hate? And how much energy are you spending on hating it right now? To be clear, I'm not suggesting that you bypass your emotions or use any kind of toxic positivity to just kind of gloss over whatever it is that you're experiencing. It definitely takes awareness, acceptance, and then conscious choices to be able to move your perspective to a new place. I realize that it's kind of like buying a house. If you realize that it's time for you to move, time to buy a new house, you first have to find that house that you're going to buy. But if you are only looking for the house that's absolutely 100% perfect for you, you're probably never going to find it. You're going to need to accept some things that are a little bit off or not quite to your liking. But then once you buy the house, you can make those changes that make it into a home for you. And that's kind of like moving into a new perspective. At first, it's going to seem like, what in the world is this new perspective? But as you rearrange your internal furniture, your internal processes, you'll find that you can create a new home within that perspective. So, recognizing that we are at choice for how we respond to life is one of the most empowering acts of self-love that we can ever give ourselves. For example, how loving is it to stay stuck hating something? Whereas, how loving is it to make changes in order to get yourself unstuck from hating something? Choosing to live differently is definitely not bypassing. It's actually taking responsibility. But it takes work, creativity, and definitely a lot of baby steps in order to shift into the life we want to be feeling, rather than the one that we think we're stuck in and don't have a choice about. So think about that thing or things that you might be stuck in that you hate, and think about what you can do about that now. Develop your self-awareness, control what you can control, find some fun along the way, and definitely look for the meaning or the purpose in whatever you're dealing with. Remember, no mud, no lotus. So I hope these ideas resonate and help you in some way. I'd love to hear how you're shifting any perspectives in your life, what you're doing to shift those perspectives. Thank you so much for watching today. And please like, share, subscribe, do all the things. That's the biggest thing that you can do to help me and help other people who might benefit from hearing these messages. And you can stay tuned to any of my updates on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, my website, www.wingsunfolded.com. And if there's something that you'd like help with related to a life transition, feel free to send me a private message. I'd love to connect with you. Or if you're local to St. John's, Michigan, you can come visit me downtown St. John's. The sign says Infinity Wellness right now. Someday I hope to have my own sign as well up there too. I share space with Claire Subach, who was on my show last week. And I hope to get a sign very, very soon. But anyway, I'd love to see you. Come see me for a session, a coaching session, or a sound healing session. And remember that it's okay to be stuck, but you don't have to stay there. Have an amazing week. Stay safe if you are in a place where the snowstorm is hitting, and take care.